Hello guys, and welcome to the 20th video in the top down zombie game tutorial series. And yeah, so guys, if you aren't subscribed, guys, make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss out whenever I upload new content. And yeah, and guys, I have the full, if you're wondering about the full tutorial from the first video to whatever video we end up to, there's going to be a link of the playlist to the full tutorial series videos right in the description. So yes guys, now today we're simply going to be refactoring code and moving all this stuff here from this stuff, moving all this stuff from the game manager and placing all the code that belongs to the player inside the player class. And yeah, so let's get started with this. Now the first thing we want to move is oh yes, one other thing that I forgot is when you create a game object, the other method that we need to have is public abstract void init to initialize our game object. It's not just we need to render, we don't need the update and render method, we also need to initialize them. So I'm gonna control S and implement all abstract methods and the S. Move all the stuff from here. And that's all nice and good. So now we can begin. So first thing, we're just simply going to copy and paste lots of stuff. So we're gonna have the input manager. Okay, we're gonna leave that. Oh yes, we're also gonna I forgot to add lots of stuff. So also in the game object, we're gonna have a buffered image. Projected buffered image. I'll just changing it from image. I'm just gonna call it. I'm gonna name it sprite. Control S and generate getters for this thing. Insert code getter. Oh yeah, and rotation angle. Generate and yes. So now what we're going to be doing is we're going to number one, we're gonna move this code. We're gonna copy this. So first thing I'm going to do is delete this image. There we go, the player is gone now. We can copy this code, Control C, and we can paste that code inside the initialize function. And this was inmate player, we can simply name this sprite. Silent statement try catch, and we can remove this. That's one thing done. The other code we need to do is we're going to remove all of this. Okay, we're just gonna delete this, and inside the initialize method we're gonna copy this, put this, we're just initializing, we're just basically refactoring stuff. And yes, you're probably wondering, how am I referring to these stuff? Well, as I said earlier, when we use inheritance, you can simply refer to whatever. Let me control, as I can control click and it will take me to transform. I can control click and it will take me to position. When I use inheritance, I don't have to refer, I don't have to write the objects at the fields or the attributes or the parameter, the whatever's, the fields or attributes. I don't have to write them again in here because it's already inherited from the game object class. So yes, so that's what is happening. And there we go. So we don't need speed anymore. We can change the speed directly from the player class. I can simply go initialize, change the speed to something like 8. Now 8's too fast. I'll just go with 3.6 F. Now we can remove the speed. Okay, we already did. Now we don't need all of this, so I can simply copy, paste, cut and paste, and inside the update method, put this, and I'll have to initialize. I have to direction equals to new vector to F. I have to reset that, and what else do I have left? This stuff. I don't need this anymore. Delete. I don't need the direction vector. Delete. Change this to position. So this is probably going to be a boring episode because I'm not going to be talking. It's going to be copying and pasting. Cutting and pasting. Change that to position instead of pause. And instead of directly saying 75, because remember this was actually half of the width and half of the height, I can simply say width divided by 2 and height divided by 2. Oh, I also need to copy this. Control C and put this here. And again, width divided by 2, height divided by 2, and for the angle, rotation angle. And we're going to remove this. We're just going to copy, Control X, paste inside our player of G2D, rename this to graphics. So for the player, we're just going to change this to sprite. And remove this. change all of this from int to float. Width divided by 2 and height divided by 2. Change all stuff to position, change from int to float. Angle, instead of saying angle, we're going to say rotation angle. From double to float and cast that into a float. And all of this other stuff. Rotation angle, rotation angle, rotation angle. And yes, now we need to go to a player and yes, so now as you can see, now our game manager class is much more clearer. It's got more space to do whatever it needs to. That's much more smaller. We just got rid of lots of lines of code that we didn't need to have inside the game manager class. That's much easier to work with. Let me just remove all of this. Now we don't need these. And what else don't we need? And there we go. So yes, and we're done. Now we can go ahead and set the, now if we run this, we're not going to see the player. Reason being, we didn't create a player object inside the game manager, and that's what we have to do right now. So I'll simply go and create private player. We're going to have to import this, and inside initialize, we're just going to create a new player. Now we should do this at the end. So initializing everything inside the game manager, then we initialize our player. Player equals to new player, and then we're gonna give the player a position of what was it, 295 and 215, right? 295 and 215. And there we go. Oh, we also need to update the player, so we're going to call in player.update. Probably wondering where is player.update. Remember, it's not inside, it is inside the player. If you're wondering, it's inside here, but it's actually creating the game object, but it's inside the player. So there's the player.update. Now we need to render. We're going to simply call player.render. And there we go, we are done. Now if I run this, still the player isn't showing, and I have no idea why. Just debug. Let me just try and debug stuff. See if that method is being called. Okay, let me just go and try and fix it and see what is the problem. Oh yes, I just remembered. We didn't call in the initialize method of the player, so the sprite is basically nothing. So we need to go back to game object. No, not game object. Game manager, and set the initialize method. We created the player, right? We need to initialize the player. We need to say player.init. And now if we run it, there we go. We have our player. And yes. And everything's working. So basically, this is literally, it's basically the end. This is basically the essence of the video, but don't leave yet because I'm going to change a few stuff. So it's always better to organize all your code together. So also, even though we moved all our code into the player class, it's still kind of messy. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to create a few methods right at the bottom here. And they're going to be private methods. Private void manage input. Manage input. And basically this code will basically manage all the input that we're going to be managing inside our player class. And so everything that's got input manager, we're going to move this. And instead of this input manager stuff, we simply just call manage input. We're going to move this to manage input.